Good evening, and thank you for joining us. As the United States races the tariff stakes with China, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has urged the American people to have trust in President Donald Trump. Trump has raised tariffs on imported Chinese goods to 145%, with Leavitt claiming more than 75 countries have been on the phone looking to negotiate deals. Beijing, meanwhile, is standing firm and hit back with a 125% tariff on U.S. goods. Nasir Karim with more.
The United States says most countries slapped with tariffs decline to retaliate with their own levies and want to cut a deal. But China, they say, retaliated despite U.S. President Donald Trump saying he has a great relationship with President Xi Jinping. This after the U.S. raised so-called reciprocal tariffs on Chinese imports to 145%. Beijing hit back by raising tariffs on U.S. goods to China to 125% from 84%.
President Trump has said China wants to make a deal on tariffs. The president says he has a great relationship with Chinese President Xi. He's willing to speak with him directly. Why doesn't the president just pick up the phone and get this ball going?
All of the things the president just said are true. The president, as I said from the podium just a few days ago when I was up here, would be gracious if China intends to make a deal with the United States. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. The United States of America is the strongest, best economy in the world, as evidenced by the more than 75 countries who have called the administration immediately to cut good deals.
Why would any of our allies work with us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike?
They've made it very clear they need the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumer base. You saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office with the president saying that he was going to bring down all of their monetary tariffs and their non-monetary tariff trade barriers as well. We've heard from South Korea. We've heard from Japan. The president has spoken to Vietnam.
In Beijing, state media China Central Television reported on the announcement by the Customs Tariff Commission of the State Council, which accused the U.S. of seriously violating international economic and trade rules. It said the U.S. tariffs go against basic economic laws and common sense and is nothing short of unilateral bullying and coercion. The council also said that the 125% tariff on U.S. goods to China makes it already impossible for the Chinese market to accept American goods. Therefore, any further U.S. tariffs on China will be ignored. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
As the tariff war between China and the United States escalates, China raised levies on U.S. imports to 125%. Reportedly, Beijing has postponed the approval of Chinese automakers' investment plans in Latin America. The Chinese embassy in the United States said China will not succumb to U.S. pressure. Citing sources, Reuters reported that Beijing is delaying approval for plans by automakers Geely and BYD to produce cars in Latin America, as U.S. tariffs ratchet up trade and economic uncertainty. In February this year, Geely Auto reached an agreement with Renault to use the French carmaker's production facilities in Brazil. BYD announced plans for a Mexican plant in 2023. Reuters said China's state planner, the National Development and Reform Commission, told the two companies that the investment plan may lead to tech transfer risks. The report also quoted another source saying that authorities have become more strict and cautious on investments by Chinese automakers abroad, but not to the point where they would completely stop accepting applications. The source said the review timeline had been lengthened and they will ask enterprises to submit more materials. Meanwhile, the Chinese official website of American electric car maker Tesla said it stopped receiving new orders of its Model S and Model X without disclosing the reasons. Both cars are manufactured in the U.S. However, Model 3 and Model Y, which are made in Shanghai, are still for sale. Liu Pengyu, a spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in the United States, posted on social media that if the United States really wants a dialogue with China, it should stop its capricious and destructive behavior, adding that China will not succumb to U.S. pressure. State media People's Daily published a commentary slamming the United States as the biggest saboteur of the multilateral trading system. It said the move of the U.S. will directly threaten the room for survival of weaker economies and the least developed countries. It added China has maintained that there are no winners in trade wars and that China does not want to fight, but it is also not afraid to fight. Donald Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods are already starting to have an impact on U.S. importers. Meanwhile, some countries trying to negotiate a deal with the U.S. are scrambling to complete orders during the 90-day window when new tariffs are suspected. Nasri Karim with more.
Linda Schlesinger-Wagner is the owner of Skinny Tees, an apparel company in Michigan in the U.S. She's expecting thousands of branded pieces of clothing made in China to arrive in Long Beach, California within a day. The order was made in September for video and e-commerce retailer QVC. With 145% tariffs on Chinese imports, the cost of the clothing has increased dramatically, much of it paid on borrowed money.
The tariffs are grossly affecting us and our consumer. We didn't plan on these. Of course, no one does. I don't think they're going to partner up with us and share this huge tariff.
U.S. President Donald Trump says one of the aims of the tariffs is to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. Schlesinger-Wagner says that is next to impossible.
People have said to me, well, why don't you make it in the United States? We don't have the capacity in the United States. It'll take years to tool up these factories. In the garment industry, the knitting mills are all closed in North Carolina and South Carolina. There isn't the manpower, and we don't have the workers who want to do this anymore. So it's going to affect all of us.
On the other side of the world, furniture makers in southern Malaysian state of Johor are rushing to fulfill orders. Malaysia is one of the countries given a 90-day pause in additional tariffs after seeking a deal with the U.S. Chai Pei Hung, chief financial officer of a furniture maker, said they will produce as much as possible at the tariff rate of 10% within the next 90 days. He said the option of setting up a factory in the U.S. is not feasible because of the huge costs involved. Candice Lim of another Malaysian furniture factory said her company refuses to panic in the hope that Trump is not serious with his plans for massive tariffs. She said the company's costs won't change because all material is sourced from Southeast Asia and Malaysia. Problems will arise, though, she says, if their American customers refuse to pay tariffs that are higher than the current 10%. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
New Police Commissioner Joe Chow said he would use technology to enhance the force's efficiency during his tenure. Chow said the force could be using drones to patrol urban areas. Speaking on a radio program, Joe Chow says enhancing public awareness of national security is his priority. Chow reminds residents to be aware of the hidden risks in relation to national security. The police chief also said the force is considering the use of drones to carry out patrols. Chow says the measure would help the force deal with the problem of insufficient manpower. A cold front is moving southward across the coastal areas of Guangdong, bringing heavy rain and strong gusts to Hong Kong. The observatory issued a special weather alert warning of imminent adverse conditions and described the situation as rare in April. Gloomy skies across Victoria Harbour with more rain around Saturday late afternoon. With the Hong Kong Observatory having issued special weather alerts since Friday over possible adverse weather on Saturday, many citizens have braced for the inclement conditions. Some put on more clothes as the observatory expects the mercury to dip to a low of 17 degrees Celsius on Sunday morning. This woman says she postponed her gathering with friends because of the unstable weather. Starting around 2 p.m., scattered rain areas swept from west to east across the city, bringing more heavy rain and thunderstorms. The weather forecaster said that was mainly related to the southward movement of a cold front and a deepening of the upper-level westerly trough along the coast of Guangdong, driven by the northeast monsoon, which is rare in April. At the China Ferry Terminal in Tsim Sha Tsui, the screen shows that multiple ferry services bound for Zhongshan, Zhuhai and Shenzhen scheduled after Saturday noon and on Sunday were cancelled. Affected passengers can reschedule or refund their tickets. Some tour groups set off as scheduled despite the imminent gusty weather. Some citizens swapped their afternoon tickets for earlier ones. The Hong Kong Observatory expects a seasonal monsoon will ease off around Sunday. Winds will weaken around Monday through Wednesday with clearer skies but bigger temperature differences between day and night. Across the border, strong gusts pummeled northern and central China today. The extreme gales, as some local meteorological departments call them, have disrupted traffic and forced multiple tourist spots to close. At least 3,200 flights have so far been cancelled nationwide. Hark upon the gale as you could hear the power of the winds battering morning suburban Beijing. In the capital's western Mentogo area, the maximum wind force reached 13, classified as extremely destructive. Gusts whipping up the signs and lashing the street lamps. Strong winds in Beijing's downtown area also swept up tree leaves and debris. Motorcycles parked outdoors were knocked over. The local meteorological department said the strongest winds would persist from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. in Beijing, and the public was urged not to venture outdoors. Public transport disrupted as well. 15 open-air sections of the Beijing subway line suspended operations, with some high-speed rail services cancelled. More than 200 bus routes through mountainous areas suspended throughout the day. Scenic spots including the Summer Palace, the Temple of Heaven Park, and Beijing Zoo will remain closed this weekend. Beijing's Universal Studios theme park is closed Saturday. Welcome back. The Immigration Department held an open day to support the upcoming 10th National Security Education Day next Tuesday. Some residents brought children to the event to educate them on the concept of national security. Musin reports.
This is not a film scene, but firearms and tactical demonstration performed by the emergency response team of the Castle Peak Bay Immigration Center. The performance is part of the activities of the Open Day at the Immigration Service Institute of Training and Development in Tuen Mun, an event to support National Security Education Day next Tuesday. Secretary for Justice Paul Lam and Director of Immigration Benson Kwok attended the event.
My favorite part was the show.
Why is that?
Because it was amazing. And see lots of different things that I never seen, like different long guns.
I think it's important for children to understand their environment and how things are governed here. Today was fun. I think it's a very good, exciting day out. Something that children should come and experience.
Visitors could trial physical tests designed for those who wish to become immigration officers or assistants. How about some role playing? The children are experiencing a contactless e-channel, which the department lowered users' age requirement last month, allowing children between 7 and 10 years old, whose heights are at least 1.1 meters and who are permanent Hong Kong residents, to pass through. The Immigration Department said a total of 4,000 people registered for the open day.
With the aim to raise the public awareness of national security and to strengthen their sense of national security, national identity through the interactive experiences, while highlighting the Immigration Department's values and mission in defending against national security risks.
Apart from the Immigration Department, other disciplinary forces and auxiliary services will also hold open days this month to promote National Security Education Day. Memos 9, TVB News.
The opening ceremony for the Songkran Festival, which celebrates the traditional Thai New Year, was held in Kowloon City today. But an important part of the festival, the water fight, was suspended because of wet and windy weather. The three-day Songkran Festival kicked off at Kowloon City Carpenter Road Park. On the stormy weather, the much-anticipated water fight part of the festival was suspended. Some children decided to start their own fight. Despite the gloomy conditions, residents who were at the festival could still enjoy a variety of Thai snacks from about 50 booths. Vendors hope the weather will improve over the next 2 days and attract more customers. Donald Trump's special envoy met Vladimir Putin for talks in Russia. The U.S. president has urged Putin to get moving on ending the war with Ukraine. David Garrett with more.
Could this handshake eventually bring peace to Ukraine? Vladimir Putin with US envoy Steve Witkoff as President Trump urged the Russian leader to get moving on a ceasefire. The 4-hour talks were said to have been productive. Meanwhile, a meeting of defence chiefs from Ukraine's Western supporters gathering at NATO headquarters in Brussels without Witkoff. European countries pledged billions of euros to help Ukraine keep fighting.
And this is what we are doing now. We take on more responsibility as Europeans and NATO as Europeans together with UK. We do whatever we can do to support Ukraine as long as it takes. And I think today was a quite impressive evidence for what we are able and willing to do.
We are forced to move the systems we have around the country to give at least temporary protection to different cities. And you know what happens when even one system goes out of service it means lost lives. In Russia, they see this at their advantage.
Earlier, Zelensky had given out medals to veterans in hospital. He got his information in conversations with them and regional commanders with whom he also met. Zelensky says Russia is using China to try to prolong the war. The foreign ministry in Beijing had earlier called Zelensky's remarks irresponsible, with China taking a neutral stance in the conflict. The Kremlin have said it is wrong to suggest Russia is dragging China into the war. David Garrett, TVB News.
UK Parliament is in an emergency sitting this Saturday as the Labour government hopes to push through legislation to stop Chinese owner Xingye from closing a British steel plant in Lincolnshire. The Chinese owner says the plant is losing hundreds of thousands of US dollars a day and is no longer sustainable. It is the first Saturday recall since the Falklands War in 1982, with 3,500 jobs at risk. The Steel Industry Special Measures Bill is expected to pass today and will grant the Business Secretary powers to intervene directly to ensure continued production at the facility in Scunthorpe.
We need more steel, not less, so we will act with urgency. Now, we should be clear, this situation and our response is unique. While it is true that we're facing a new era of global instability, our concerns about this plant and negotiations to protect it have been running for years. This moment could have happened at any time, but it has happened now, and I will not stand by. We will pass emergency legislation in one day to give the Business Secretary the powers to do everything possible to stop the closure of these blast furnaces.
Many of the world's largest shipping nations decided on Friday to impose a minimum tax of $100 for every ton of carbon dioxide emitted by ships. It is effectively the first global tax on greenhouse gas emissions, but the U.S. was noticeably absent.
It takes us to one step closer to finalizing the first global mandatory measures when it comes to decarbonization, including a pricing mechanism. And that's what I reiterate my optimism. It's not easy to get these agreements. We're the first one to get on that agreement on a pricing mechanism on emissions at the international global stage.
The agreement will become effective by 2028. More than 60 countries entered the negotiations. The U.S. Trump administration said it would reject any efforts to impose economic measures against ships based on emissions or fuel choice. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.